Good morning, good morning. Welcome back to the Board Gaming Breakfast live stream. Looks like everything should be up and running. Boom. All right, awesome. Welcome back. For those that are new, I like to go live every Monday through Friday from 8 to about 8:30 to talk about all things board games. It's split into 3 different segments so that we can chop it up for videos later. And let's jump right into it. So the first segment we're going to do is we're going to talk about a game of the day. All right. We're good. Don't worry about stuff happening off screen. All right. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a game called Tapestry by Stonemaier Games, designed by Jamie Stegmaier and published by his company. And I will be talking about the mechanics that I find really enjoyable that always have me wanting to get this game to the table. So we got Tapestry as today's game of the day. And I'm not going to go through a full rules overview. There are, I think there's a Watch It Played that does a really good job. I'll link that in the description below of this video. But today I wanted to focus on kind of 2 parts, sort of the player board itself with the city that you get, and the simplicity of the actions that you get to take on your turn. And so if you look at the player board, there's 4 different regions that have 4 different resource types on them. And at the start of the game, each of those tracks has one of the 4 building types covering 5 of the spots. So that only leaves these first 2 spaces available. And when you're taking actions and able to place buildings from your mat into your city, you'll then, when you take income, be able to take everything that you've replaced or removed from your income mat for the next round. And so this pairing of removing these buildings to increase your income between when you I forget what the exact term they call it is, but when either you pass to go into like the next era, like building up that engine, and like it feels really satisfying to remove the buildings to place into your city. And so what you're doing within your city is you're trying to fill up these different quadrants. I don't know exactly what the terminology they call it in the game is, but you're slowly placing and filling up the spaces that as soon as you fill one of those districts, you'll get a bonus resource. But when you enter the income phase, you'll actually be scoring for the rows and columns that you complete. So there's this kind of polling of, do I want to continue to gain resources, balanced with this, oh, you know, I want to try and line up these rows and columns to maximize victory points as I start to remove the popular, I don't know exactly what they call them, just call them houses, maybe? Yeah, so as you start to place more houses into your city, you'll be scoring based on the rows and columns that you've completed. And so this balance of, you know, there's 2 benefits. Like, you're working towards filling in this city, which feels really nice, but you're also gaining additional income between rounds, which is also very satisfying. So like that double benefit of removing buildings feels so satisfying of a puzzle in this game. And so that's one aspect that I really wanted to highlight in Tapestry. The second is the track system that they have. So in the game, on the main board, there are these 4 tracks that you all start at the bottom of, and then on your turn you can spend resources to move up and take that action. And so the way Jamie was able to turn this sprawling tech tree into 4 tracks, so at any like given time you're only moving up and taking 1 benefit, it limits the you know, decision space of you only can push 1 of 4 tracks. So there's 4 options that you can do in a round, but there's also the ability that if I really wanted to run up the science track to take this repeat action here, I can then plan ahead to think of what space do I want to land on in technology or military or exploration to really maximize that repeat action. And so it creates this forward planning puzzle of trying to think about which tracks you want to move up when, because the order that you take the bonuses can change from game to game. Like, they won't change based on the track. Like, you'll never roll the science die and take a benefit before you've gotten through these 4. But when you decide to roll that science die to push up a different track, you can wait until you've gotten the other 3 tracks into the more expensive sections of the track to be able to cheat out more victory points or more resources. And so that kind of ease of there's only 4 things you can push up is simple enough to figure out what you're doing on your turn, but that prolonged decision making of planning ahead and trying to calculate when other players are pushing on tracks, because it doesn't even show on here, but if you look at each of the colored bars, when you go from one section of a track to another, if you're the first to push into that region, you'll gain a bonus landmark. And so these landmarks are these massive sculpted buildings that will also go into your city and take up more space. And so to cover this district, it would cost 9 income buildings for me to place out there, which would take a long time. But if I can get the tank factory and be the first to land on that space, that'll cover up that entire district and help with the not only gaining the resource back, but it will help immensely for building out those rows and columns to score. And so those are the 2 kind of mechanics that I'd say are top of the list in terms of there's a whole slew of mechanics that I enjoy in this game. Spoiler, it's in my top 5 favorite games of all time. But those are the 2 that I'd like to highlight in this video for why I find the game Tapestry to be such an enjoyable experience. I'd love to hear what your favorite part of Tapestry is in the comments below. And if you like these type of videos, feel free to subscribe. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and look forward to engaging with you in the comments. We are done with video 1. I assume maybe just Michaela's watching live. I'm sort of glad that I can't see a viewer count, but also don't know if there are lurkers in the background, so it's sort of a give and take how I feel about my current OBS setup. Alright, so that's video 1. We'll move into video 2, which is where we take the game of the day Tapestry and have to insert a random game mechanic into it. And so we will reset for video 2. We didn't do the snaps today, but that's okay. All right, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be taking the game Tapestry and adding a random game mechanic into it. And how we might be doing that? Well, we have on our screen over here, we have our wheel of mechanics, which this has 63 different game mechanics pulled from BGG, Board Game Geek, where we will spin it and that will tell us a random game mechanic that we have to add into Tapestry. And so I'll pull up the 5-minute timer on my phone. That way we have to feel the pressure, so we don't have to overthink what we're designing. And so I'm going to spin the wheel, mute my computer, and hope that we don't end up with a mechanic that's already in Tapestry. Alright, we got dexterity as our mechanic that we are trying to put into Tapestry. So we got our tablet screen showing now. We can make sure that it's syncing correctly. Alright, we should be good to go. So I'll write dexterity. So we're taking dexterity and trying to insert that game mechanic into Tapestry. Alright, so we will start the clock and see where we get. We are off to the races. So dexterity. So I'm thinking that this probably makes sense to lean into the city board. There's 2 thoughts. We could either do a dexterity element in the city board, of the, because you're taking the buildings and placing them into your city. We could go with something along those lines, or we could reimagine the tracks on the board where when you're pushing them up, potentially all the tracks are kind of within one another, so you have to try and push your cubes throughout there. And then the third thought that I had was doing something with, I'm going to block my face really quick, is if we pull up the main board of Tapestry, there's this giant center representing like the land that you're sort of exploring and discovering, that we could add a dexterity element into there that has some design space as well. And so I'd love to hear in chat if there's one of those three that intrigue you the most. But while I wait for chat's response, I think I'll start with the city dexterity portion of it. And so to switch over back into our tablet screen to recreate our city, you got the 3x3 of the districts, which will make a thicker line to kind of denote that. It's not too much of a thicker line, but that's okay. We'll just swap to the thin line. So we got our thick line. So I sort of thought initially the city dexterity when I first saw it. All right, perfect. Michaela, we are aligned. Michaela's in the chat agreeing that we should focus on the city portion of the dexterity. So we'll draw our city really quick. And gotta work on my penmanship, but we're going fast. So we have our city, and then there are certain spots. We'll go back to our medium thickness pen line. We have our, we'll see if there's any Tapestry experts to see if they can guess which city I'm copying, or those that were perceptive in watching the video to see if they caught the title of the city that I'm recreating. And so for those of you who've never played Tapestry, there's certain spaces in your city that are like, I guess, rocks and non-buildable areas that count as already built upon. So when you're scoring for rows and columns, those already satisfy being built. And so bonus points, comment down below if you know which city I just drew. But the dexterity element is potentially you have to terraform your city before you can build on it. So at the start of the game, there would be these tiles, or some sort of tile configuration that would highlight, okay, there's a tile here and a tile here, tile here, but there'd be these kind of randomly placed either 2x2 squares or 3x2 squares that everyone would get a tiny little excavator shovel that in order to be able to successfully build, you have to remove one of those polyomino shapes, and you would get the bonus if you can remove them successfully. Or so we would probably create some sort of benefit system of if you can it'd be hard to do because I'm thinking sort of operation, but we don't want to add all those weird mechanics of like the buzzing and how do we know if we've unsuccessfully failed. And so if you can potentially move a tile, we'll finish that thought and then recap where we got to with this challenge. But we'd come up with like 3 case scenarios that if you can get the tile onto another piece in one action. So by like potentially taking one tile and being able to flip it over or something like that, you are able to remove it entirely, or take the bonus. Like if you're able to flip the tile and keep it within your grid, something like that, you will get the bonus points on the backside that you reveal. If you take 2 chances to like if it requires 2 attempts to actually remove the tile from your city, period, there's no penalty. But if you can't remove that like terraformed section completely in 2 attempts, then maybe you'd have to pay a resource to successfully pull the tile from your city. And so that is where we'll leave off with the brainstorm of that. But to recap, our challenge was to take dexterity as a mechanic, and so we didn't even start by saying what dexterity is. Dexterity is kind of like Jenga or other dexterity games like Animal Upon Animal, I guess Crokinole and Strike, and it's like an element, like there's a physical element to the game, and your goal is to like it's a so that's sort of what dexterity is. And our challenge was to add a dexterity element into Tapestry. We had talked about Operation being a dexterity game as well, where you're trying to use the little precision tweezers to not touch the edge. So the dexterity has a physical precision style element to the game. And what we came up with is we talked about 3 different possible areas that we think dexterity could fit between the center of the main board, the way that you get moved up on tracks, and the way that you add cities or buildings to your cities. And so those are the 3 areas that we highlighted as a potential area, room, or space for a dexterity element to exist. And we chose to go with the city mat as our location for adding dexterity. And so in the 5 minutes, we came up with this idea of having these almost polyomino shapes that start on your board, and on the board itself it would dictate where these shapes would go. And we created this rule set of that if one attempt you were successful in adding the or removing the tile from the player board, you would get a bonus on whatever the back of it is if you were able to flip it off of your city. And if you did it in 2 attempts, you wouldn't get the bonus that is on the back, but you wouldn't have to pay a cost to remove that terraformed area. And then if you weren't able to do it in 2 attempts, you would have to pay 1 resource as a cost to terraform that section of your player board. And so that's kind of what we came up with in the 5 minutes. And so how we would test this is I would model up some polyomino style shapes for covering the player board. And I would go and I'd have to take the city mats to count up how many squares there are. And then I would create a unique tile set that satisfies that positioning cost. And I'd print for probably 2 of them because we'd probably be able to play it at 2 players. And so there could be a race element that the first to place all the polyominoes into their city successfully would get a bonus starting resource or something not crazy. But once those were printed, I would create a better, a prettier rule set for what the criteria is for kind of clearing out terrain. And then I would print the little dexterity shovels that we would be using to attempt to flip the terrain. And so that would be the entirety of what I'd need to kind of do before testing this idea at the table. And so how I'd go about testing it is the next time, once I had all that content printed and produced, I would ask my fiance Michaela if, hey, you want to play Tapestry? I got this interesting dexterity element that I'd like to test out. and we'd table it, and I'd probably do a recorded playthrough to be able to watch back and see what the pain points were from that dexterity element, to see if it's even a fun concept, first overall, and then two, see the pain points of knowing where to improve upon it. And so in closing, that is how I personally would add a dexterity element to Tapestry. Feel free to comment below what you think would be it, or if you have any ideas of a dexterity element in Tapestry. I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And if you like content like this, please feel free to subscribe. Hope to hear from you soon. We got the snaps back. Hi, Michaela. All right, we're almost there, guys. We'll push Tapestry out of the way and then finish the day with one more design challenge. And our last design challenge will be designing a game from a randomly generated prompt in 5 minutes or less. And so we will get rid of, that's not the right screen. We want this screen. All right, boom. All right, we are all set up for the last video of today. You don't need to publicize that, Michaela. All right, last video. We'll fix the hair so I'll make sure I look okay. Hi, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be designing a game in 5 minutes or less from a randomly generated game prompt. So if you are new to the channel, what we do is we pull up our screen over here and we add a new, that was a little teaser for a previous video, but we create a new blank canvas for our tablet, and we jump over to letsmakeagame.net, and they have this tool called their game idea generator. And what it'll do is once we click the generate button, it will give us a genre, rule, a setting, and a theme for us to try and design a game around. And for the sake of not trying to overthink things, in this brainstorm session, I'll pull up my phone and set a 5-minute timer for us to design within. And so now that the preamble's out of the way, I'm going to click this generate button. And so we got the genre as the virtual pet typing. Not exactly sure what that is. The rule is choose a path, the setting is medieval, and the theme is power fantasy. Virtual pet times typing. I'm gonna regenerate just because I'm not sure what that is. So we got our genre is strategy, the rule is no weapons are allowed, the setting is dark fantasy, and the theme is love against the odds. That we went from a highly specific game prompt to a very vague open game prompt. And so in this live stream, we've talked about the game Tapestry. So we'll have to, for my self constraint, we will be adding at least one element of Tapestry into this concept. So we'll add maybe over here plus Tapestry. So we're doing all of the game prompt stuff plus Tapestry. I don't know, Michaela. It could have been a typing game, but now that we got that out of the way, we have our 5 minutes on the clock, and we hit the button on our second attempt. So rewrite Tapestry to make it a little more legible. So strategy, no weapons allowed, dark fantasy, love against the odds. So from a Tapestry perspective, I think dark fantasy, love against the odds. I think what we would come up with is, so in the center of the Tapestry game board, there are these hex tiles that make up the world that you're exploring in the civilization game of Tapestry. And so I would probably use something like that, and we'll do the 2-player map. So let's figure out what that has. So it's a 7 one there. And while I'm doing this repetitive drawing, that'll give my brain a little more time to think about what we're going to add into this game. So we got 3, 6, one more. And then we can do them out here. Ah! Gotta work on controlling my pen lines. So we got 3 out there. 3 out here. Oh God, control the pen lines, Sam. And then we rotate it this way. And we got 3 out here. And then we got 3 out here. And then we have to fill in these guys by doing this. So we slowly getting our map situated. I know this is riveting content. Oh, we got some it's a fist fight, and then maybe knights fighting for the hand of the marriage of the princess. That is sort of what I'm going with. So in a previous video, we did the theme of vying for the princess, courting the princess. So I'm gonna pivot a little bit on that idea, but it's along the same lines of what I was thinking. So we finally got our map. Woo! And so my thought is that there would be these star-crossed lovers in each of the corners. And so depending on the player count, so this could be a 2 to 3 player game, which would be a weird player count. Or no. You could have as many players. And so everyone would get, so this would be the blue, this would be the yellow, green. We should have done the color wheel. Green, yellow, orange, red, and purple. And they all have different letters. Perfect. You can make it a Shrek IP. I don't think we have we don't got the guap to do that. But so there'd be these kind of dark fantasy characters in each corner. And at the beginning of the game, everybody has a goal where you want yellow with orange, green with purple, and red with blue. And so everyone would draw a goal requirement. And similar to like a tile placement game like Land vs. Sea or Carcassonne, I don't know, I almost said Santorini. Everyone would have a supply of 2 tile options that have these kind of railways connecting 2 of the sides. And I'll finish that thought and then wrap up where we got to. And so you'd have 2 of these, and on your turn, you'll place one in the board and then draw one from the reserve. And the game will end once all of the locations have been filled. And the goal is you get 1 point for matching each of your connecting the star-crossed lovers. And so then everyone would reveal what their goals are. And maybe it's played over a couple rounds, but we can't do any more brainstorming because the alarm went off. So to recap, where we got in this brainstorm is our prompt was that we had to come up with a strategy game, no weapons allowed, where it was a dark fantasy setting and the theme was love against all odds. And for our own designing criteria that we wanted to design around is we wanted to take an element from Tapestry, because that was the game of the day from the live stream. And so what we chose is to use the hex grid center of Tapestry, and our goal was to connect lovers. So everyone would have a goal card, which is right here, and there would be, it would pair up two of the six. You have three pairs of the different six characters, and you would take turns playing one of your two tiles that look like this and placing them out onto the grid. So we might place, so how the game would work, let's see if I can demo that quickly, is we would copy this and say we played it here. So that would be my turn, and then I draw a tile, and then the next player would go and say maybe they decided they wanted to place this tile there, and then the next player would go and they want to rotate it and place it here. And so you'd rinse and repeat in doing that for the game until the board is filled or there are direct paths connecting all of the characters. And so just from that quick demo, we would probably have to create Pac-Man style loops or some sort of indicator. If a path goes off there, it comes into play. And so we would create symbols to marry different spots on the board. And the goal of the game would be still the same, but instead of, because one person could probably dead end a path right there, so we don't want to have it outright dead end. But that would be kind of a quick overview of how the turn structure would work. And the game would end either when the board is completely filled or all six characters on the edge of the board have been connected. And after that round is over, or the game could be over there, and you'll get points for, maybe we could tier them, so you'll get 3 points if you do that one, 2 points if you do that one, and 1 point if you do that one. But if you do all of them, you get +2 or something like that. We'd create some point value to all of them, and then we'd test it from there. So the next steps that I'd have to do to be able to test if this game is even viable is I'd have to create a bunch of these hex tiles, and I would then create the scoring cards, and I'd have to create the board. And this would probably be something that I'd test on Tabletop Simulator, just because the ability to cut these hex tiles would not be the easiest. It'd be very time consuming. And so I would probably create maybe 6 variation tiles here, and then I would create a few different pairing cards, so maybe 6 or so, just so that you don't know exactly what the opponent's scoring conditions are. And then I would bring it into Tabletop Simulator and find a friend or two to test it with. I'd still have to write out the 6-step instructions of how the game's played and how it scores, and then I would probably be able to get at the table within like a couple hours. And so that is how I would take this game prompt that we've gotten and test it to see its feasibility. Feel free to let me know in the comments below if this is a game that you even think that would be fun or that you'd want to try out, or if you have any other ideas for how to satisfy today's game prompt. I'd love to hear that too. And if you like videos like this, please subscribe. I produce videos for I live stream every day, Monday through Friday, and I post videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of highlights from the streams. So I'd love for you to follow along. Hope you have a good one. Bye, Michaela. The stream is over. And bye, whoever else is watching. Glad you guys joined.